Lin Mo's fireball spell suddenly gained sentience. Not only did it awaken its own consciousness, but it even berated him for being a useless mage. Determined to grow stronger, it resolutely packed its bags and ran away from home. It intended to grind for experience on its own, fully expecting Lin Mo to weep and beg it to stay. To its surprise, he was visibly overjoyed. His mother was the proprietor of the city's largest medicinal conglomerate, and his father was the commander of the city defense force, renowned as the Raging Thunder War God. To be a wealthy young master who lived a life of leisure and comfort, what could be better than that? But what he did not expect was that only an hour later his status board began to flood with frantic notifications. After traveling a great distance, his fireball skill had arrived at the verdant grasslands south of Zhonghai City. Warning, enemy encountered. A level 1 sharp-toothed rabbit has been detected grazing. Seeing this, the fireball scoffed with disdain. Is that all? You call this a monster? You're insulting me by making me face such pathetic prey. In the next second, the fireball struck, aiming precisely at the sharp-toothed rabbit's front incisors, securing the kill. Experience gained 5 points. Skill proficiency +1. However, the fireball remained incredibly dissatisfied. It felt that such low-level monsters providing so little experience was an insult to its noble status. It accelerated, searching for stronger adversaries while roaring, "I want to take on 10 of you at once." Watching the streams of combat logs scroll across his status board, Lin Mo fell into deep thought. This meant that even though the fireball had seemingly run away from home, it was still categorized under his own skill system. Experience raining down from the heavens while he sat at home. As long as his skills were hardworking enough, he could lie in bed, and his level and skill proficiency would still soar. The most outrageous part was that his skills now had a mind of their own, hunting monsters even more effectively than he, their master, ever could. Thinking of this, he leaned back in satisfaction, adjusted his pillow, and prepared to continue idling away the time, but the next system notification left him frozen in place. Due to his skill's heaven-defying comprehension, it had autonomously deduced and evolved into a higher-tier technique. Multi-burst fireball, capable of splitting into 15 fireballs in the blink of an eye for wide-area bombardment. Upon impact, the targets would suffer a secondary explosion. Incredible. Even something like that is possible? He bolted upright from his bed instantly. Although the multi-burst fireball was technically a novice-grade skill, it involved complex techniques such as elemental splitting and secondary detonation. Even a flame mage who specialized in fire attribute cultivation would not necessarily be able to comprehend it on their first attempt, let alone a blank slate mage like yourself. This is truly defying the heavens to an absurd degree. You could not help but think, if things continue at this pace, by the time you reach level 10, you might be able to learn a second basic skill. If you learn the water arrow technique, will the skill deem the damage too weak and refine itself into a tsunami spell? And if you learn the earth shield technique, will it find it lacking in durability and evolve into an absolute defense? If your skills across all elements evolve to the 100th level like this, wouldn't a blank slate mage like you transform into an omni-elemental forbidden spell god? Thinking of this, you drew a sharp breath. This is clearly the path to becoming a god while simply lying down. However, the next system notification left you both stunned and amused. The fireball skill feels the monsters in the verdant plains are too weak and is heading toward a higher level region, the gloomy forest. The message left behind read, "Just go to sleep, don't get in the way and interfere with my performance." Seeing such an arrogant message, you felt completely at ease. Very well. If your own skills are putting in such an effort, how could you possibly hold them back? With that, you yawned, adjusted to your most comfortable position, and drifted off to sleep. Early the next morning, you opened your eyes groggily and stretched. That was truly a satisfying sleep. Reflexively, you opened your occupation interface, only to be met with a scene that left you utterly shocked. Unbelievable, you reached level 3. One must understand that leveling up in this world is no simple task. Even for a genius from a major clan accompanied by a team to assist in cultivation, reaching level 3 on the first day is a rare feat. And you? You slept without doing a thing, yet you leveled straight to 3 with 25% of your experience bar already filled. Is this the true allure of a fully automated cultivation mode? However, the notification line at the bottom of your status panel brought you back to reality. I am exhausted. Boy, hurry up and find me some fire elemental nourishment or I am going on strike. Looking at that irritable message, you did not feel a flicker of anger. After all, if one runs out of mana, they must take a medicinal pill. Furthermore, the skill is helping you grind levels. You immediately headed down to the dining hall to find ingredients that could replenish fire elemental energy. Unexpectedly, you ran into your parents the moment you stepped downstairs. Your mother, Suen, saw you and immediately intended to console you regarding your status as a blank slate mage. But little did she know she was a high priestess. With just one glance, she sensed something unusual about your aura. How has your aura grown so much stronger than it was yesterday? The very next second, Suwon stood frozen in place. Level 3 already. Did we not tell you to simply remain at home and enjoy the life of a young master in comfort? Have you been sneaking out in the middle of the night to grind for levels? Lin Tianhao, standing nearby, was equally shaken, his eyes nearly bulging from their sockets. Facing their looks of astonishment, Lin Mo's heart skipped a beat. This is disastrous. I was so caught up in the excitement that I forgot to prepare an excuse. Should I really tell them my skills went out to slay monsters on their own? Just as he was contemplating a cover story, his parents' eyes suddenly reddened. Do you see now? Who dares to call our mower a good-for-nothing? This child is so sensible that it breaks one's heart. He claims he wants to rely on his parents, yet he secretly grinds for levels all night long, all because he does not want us to worry. As for how he reached level 3 in a single night, the two of them found nothing strange about it. They usually provide their sons with large sums of pocket money. He must have spent it hiring high-level professionals to guide him through the leveling process. While that is somewhat extravagant, what does it matter to the Lin family? Good son. Lin Tianhao, deeply moved, gave him a heavy pat on the shoulder. As long as you have such dedication, father is satisfied. If you wish to cultivate and level up, I will support you with everything I have. Having said that, Lin Tianhao waved his hand and called out toward the door. Hong Yu. As soon as he finished, a tall, imposing figure stepped firmly into the room. If the young master truly wishes to level up, do not sneak out anymore. It is not safe. Once you have finished breakfast, let Hong Yu take you to the outskirts of the city. You may train however you wish, but safety must come first. Lin Mo glanced at the person who had just arrived. He recognized this person. He was his father's trusted subordinate, possessing formidable strength. It seems this trip outside is unavoidable after all. He had intended to sit down and eat a few bites before leaving, but he suddenly remembered Xiaohuo's message. Mother, is there anything on the menu this morning that is rich in fire element energy? For example, fire fruits or a steak from a scarlet flame beast. Swan paused upon hearing this, and perhaps it is because her son lacks an innate talent for fire elemental affinity that she wishes to compensate for it through his diet. Although this method is but a drop in the ocean compared to innate talent, his tenacity and drive to improve are truly rare. Is there such a thing? Naturally, there is. Suan immediately turned to instruct the butler, bring that barrel of scarlet heart lava fruit here at once, and that entire batch of rhinoceros flame coal that arrived yesterday. Tell the kitchen to prepare it immediately. As long as Mo Air is willing to eat, even if it were the liver of a fire dragon from the heavens, Mother would procure it for you. 10 minutes later, plates of expensive delicacies were spread out before him. The dense aura of fire elementals was so potent that even Ye Hongyu, standing to the side, could not help but glance over. This single breakfast alone cost as much as the annual living expenses of an ordinary family. Yet he stood on no ceremony, grabbing a scarlet heart lava fruit and popping it directly into his mouth. With a muffled boom, a surge of heat flooded into his body. Instantly, the skill icon of little fire began to churn violently. Fireball technique roared, exhilarating. This is the sensation I crave. I feel as if my entire body is overflowing with power. Where are those accursed monsters? Release me at once. I wish to incinerate them all. Hearing this, Lin Mo's hand, currently slicing his steak, paused. This little fire is becoming far too temperamental. The fireball technique responded with a scoff. What good is foresight and deep planning? Cease your nonsense and take me to the outskirts immediately. For my blade is already parched for blood. Once the fireball technique had fully recharged, Lin Mo and Hong Yu arrived at the gloomy forest. As they walked, Ye Hongyu skillfully drew 2 daggers that glinted with a cold light. Young master, to ensure the efficiency of your leveling, I shall not join your party. After all, grouping would only dilute your experience gains. My plan is to be responsible for luring the monsters, controlling them, and wearing them down to the brink of death. The final, finishing blow shall be left to you, young master, so that you may claim 100% of the experience. Ye Hongyu had expected him to choose to grind alone, but to her surprise, he agreed immediately. Before long, the two arrived in the hunting grounds of the shadow-veiled wolves. Although this type of beast is only a third-rank monster, it is notorious for its speed and agility, making it exceptionally difficult to handle. Yet Ye Hongyu did not waste a single word. She took a powerful step and lunged forward. The dual daggers in her hands cut through the wind, carving a flash of chilling light into the air. Immediately afterward, the shadow-veiled wolf, which had been pouncing through the air, let out a miserable howl before crashing heavily to the ground. Though it was on the verge of death, it was still drawing its final shallow breaths. Understanding the young master's intent, Lin Mo immediately channeled his energy and a roaring orb of crimson fire erupted from his palm. But just as the fireball was released, the shadow wolf lived up to its reputation for agility. Despite its grave injuries, it suddenly lunged violently to the right, unleashing its innate talent. With a shimmering blur, this maneuver narrowly bypassed the original trajectory of the fireball. Seeing this, Ye Hongyu's heart sank. It was ruined, the strike had missed. Was it truly impossible after all? The fireball technique of a white rank mage is far too linear. It is fundamentally unable to compensate for such sudden, agile shifts in movement. Just as she prepared to intervene to prevent the beast from threatening the young master, an unforeseen anomaly occurred. Ye Hongyu's eyes widened instantly, as if witnessing a scene beyond all comprehension. She watched as the fireball, which had clearly missed its mark, suddenly halted in midair the moment it grazed the wolf's flank. Immediately afterward, the fireball forcibly pivoted, carving a sharp U-turn in the air. It surged directly toward the shadow wolf. The fireball technique seemed to mock the creature. You think you can dodge this? I will not allow you to evade. Begone and die. Without hesitation, the fireball doubled back and slammed precisely into the shadow wolf. The already exhausted shadow wolf was decimated on the spot, its flesh and blood spraying in every direction. In this moment, even Ye Hongyu, standing by his side, was struck dumb with shock. This is dual-stage mental guidance. One must understand that while dual-stage mental guidance is not an impossibly high-level technique, it remains a delicate maneuver that only veteran mages can perform. Most importantly, the young master only awakened his power yesterday and has been a white rank mage for less than 24 hours, Yet he is already capable of using pure mental force to forcibly bend the trajectory of his technique. It is no wonder the young master did not care for this agile shadow wolf and did not even bother to dodge. So this is the self-assurance of the strong? Seeing Ye Hongyu standing there in a daze, Lin Mo could not help but speak up. What is the matter? Why are you just standing there? Bring me the next one. Ye Hongyu struggled to suppress the terror in her heart. Her gaze toward him had completely shifted, now holding a trace of genuine reverence. Watching her reaction, the fireball technique picked at its nose and retorted with a sneer. If I were to perform a 720-degree Thomas flare followed by the elusive movement technique and cap it all off by tracing a heart in the air, this woman would surely drop to her knees and howl at the heavens. Making a mountain out of a molehill, Lin Mo was rendered speechless. This little fire spirit is truly talkative. After a whole afternoon of sweeping through the area, his fire magic level had successfully risen to rank 5. Upon returning to the manor, his mother Su Xuan hurried out to greet him, taking his hands and looking him over from head to toe. How did it go? Are you tired? Are you injured anywhere? Lin Mo shrugged with a smile. Mother, I only went out to grind levels. I wasn't on a battlefield, so why would I be injured? Besides, with Sister Hongyu there, I was completely safe. Just as Lin Mo was about to head upstairs to sleep, Ye Hongyu's next words left everyone stunned. Commander, Madam, the young master is arguably the most gifted mage I have ever encountered. The moment these words were spoken, Lin Tianhao's expression turned instantly serious. Hongyu, explain yourself clearly. He understood Ye Hongyu well. She was a woman of integrity who spoke only the truth. She would never lie simply to curry favor with her superiors. Yet strangely, Ye Hongyu did not answer immediately. Instead, she pulled her phone from her pocket. Words are not as convincing as evidence. Commander, Madam, this is a video I recorded in the gloomy forest this afternoon. Once you see it, you will understand. With that, she started the video and turned the screen toward Lin Tianhao and his wife. In an instant, the dining room fell into a heavy silence, leaving only Lin Mo standing to the side with a slightly awkward expression. Sister Hongyu, if you were going to record a video, you could have at least given me a heads up. After a long moment, Lin Tianhao's voice trembled slightly. That fireball just now was a 2-layer spiritual guidance technique, and for Moer to possess such multitasking ability, while even finding the leisure to play games, he is surely destined to be among the pinnacle combat powers of Jianghai City. Lin Tianhao knew all too well what this implied. As expected, my son is no ordinary individual. Beside him, Suwang covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes instantly turning red. Feeling the burning gaze of his parents, Lin Mo could only sigh to himself. So be it. Even if he were a genius, how could he possibly tell them that his fireball technique had developed a mind of its own? But just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Suwan. More, it won't be long before you have to participate in the grand examination. If you want to be admitted to a top-tier academy, you must at least reach level 10 and master a second basic skill to ensure your success. Our family possesses all sorts of basic skill manuals for every element. We have the water arrow technique for the water element, the earth shield technique for the earth element, and even the rare lightning strike for the thunder element. More, which one do you wish to learn? Just name it, and I will have someone retrieve it for you immediately. Hearing this, Lin Tianhao fell into a brief contemplation. Son, let me offer a suggestion. Although your fireball technique has peerless accuracy, a mage is inherently a glass cannon profession. The greatest danger is being cornered by an assassin or overwhelmed by long-range suppression. Therefore, for this second skill, I suggest you choose the Earth Element's Earth Shield technique. This is the basic skill with the highest defensive rating. Mastering it is no different than donning an extra layer of turtle armor. In moments of crisis, it could very well save your life. Lin Mo stroked his chin, falling into deep thought. Indeed, self-preservation was the most important thing. Very well, I will listen to Father. I shall select the Earth Elephant for my second skill for the time being. Staying alive is still the top priority. I still want to live a few more years to continue being independent, after all. Hearing this, Lin Tianhao laughed heartily. He did not take his son's lack of ambition to heart. Since the goal had been decided, the progress of leveling up could not be halted. With that said, Lin Tianhao flicked his wrist, and a scroll emitting a dark purple glow was solemnly placed upon the table. This is a hard difficulty dungeon. The ancient treasure of warm spirits. I originally intended to give this to you in a few days, but since your leveling speed is this rapid, coupled with that micro-manipulation talent of yours, you may use it tonight. The level requirement for this dungeon is between level 3 and level 5, so Hong Yu will not be able to enter with you. But do not worry, I have already assembled a team for you. A team? Lin Mo spoke the words instinctively. Scarcely had he finished speaking when several youths appeared at the doorway, led by an exquisite young woman dressed in a pale blue magical robe. Behind her followed 2 men and 1 woman, a tall, slender youth with a longbow strapped to his back and a brawny man carrying a massive shield. Beside them was a timid, shy young cleric with her hair tied in twin tails. Lin Tianhao gestured with his hand to introduce them to his son. More, come and make their acquaintance. This is Xia Qingye, the captain of this squad and a remarkably powerful water mage. Xia Qingyu extended a slender, fair hand. Greetings, classmate Lin Mo. Greetings, Miss Xiai, the campus beauty. Lin Mo extended his hand to offer a polite, brief handshake. Though the two had little prior contact, he had long since heard of her legendary reputation. She was the icy beauty of the neighboring First High School. It was said that the line of her suitors stretched from the South City to the North City. She was the dream lover of countless youths, yet Lin Mo felt no ripples of excitement in his heart. Towards such cold and aloof beauties, he had never once felt the urge to initiate an acquaintance. It was simply too tiresome. Consequently, when Xia Qingyo observed his clear indifferent gaze, lacking the lecherous appraisal common among other young men, she found herself feeling a faint sense of approval. Just as she was about to introduce her companions, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed from the side hall. "Young master, the equipment has been retrieved." With those words, Ye Hongyu entered, carrying an armful of gear that glowed with a faint orange light. Witnessing this scene, the four youths froze, their eyes wide with disbelief. Was this not the legendary purple cloud set from the rumors? Even Xia Qingyo, who usually maintained an icy composure, saw a flicker of astonishment flash through her beautiful eyes. Is this the true foundation of a top-tier wealthy family? One must realize that in this world, the highest grade of equipment is merely mythical. Yet here was a mage who had awakened his power only 2 days ago, casually donning a set of legendary gear, the second highest rank, as if it were mere clothing. It was a truly extravagant waste of heavenly treasures. Lin Mo, however, felt very little about it. Under the attentive care of Ye Hongyu, he allowed himself to be dressed in the full set like a useless pampered heir, merely raising his arms and waiting for someone to dress him. It fits quite well. Thank you, Sister Hongyu. The next scene left the onlookers completely dazzled. He simply flicked his arm, and the robes, shimmering with flowing light, transformed into tiny specks of starlight before vanishing into his body in the blink of an eye. His outer appearance returned to his casual attire, and ignoring the stunned expressions of those around him, he immediately opened his status panel. The very next second he gasped, glancing over the attributes of the Ziyun set. This set is truly brutally efficient. It possesses no flamboyant or useless stats, adhering strictly to a single philosophy, simple yet devastating. The robe reduces cooldowns by 10%, the boots and the necklace by 15%. With the additional set bonuses activated, the total cooldown reduction reaches a staggering 60%. And what does that signify? A fireball spell, which originally had a 3-second cooldown, can now be cast every 1.2 seconds. That alone is enough to unleash a barrage, and the multi-explosion fireball, which once required a grueling 15-second cooldown, now only needs a mere 6 seconds before another wave can be unleashed. This is truly peak-tier equipment. The benefits are simply incredible. Standing not far away, Zhang Kai and Wang Meng exchanged glances, feeling a sour bitterness in their hearts. Is this the legendary skill of reincarnation? Some people are born at the finish line. What use is this gear on a white-tier mage other than making him look presentable? Yet every subtle shift in their expressions could not escape the eyes of Lin Tianhao, a god of war who had emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He had long since mastered the art of reading the human heart. He saw the envy in Zhang Kai's eyes, the jealousy in Wang Meng's gaze, and the hidden disdain they held toward his son. He pulled him aside and intentionally lowered his voice, his tone serious as never before. Son, remember this. Our family paid for this dungeon scroll, and we have paid them a considerable sum as well. You are the employer, they are merely the hired help. In this world, whether outside the city or within a dungeon, it is an Asura battlefield where lives are easily lost. The human heart cannot withstand such trials. In the face of extreme danger, human instinct is invariably to prioritize self-preservation, and they might even grow envious of the gear you possess, leading to thoughts that they shouldn't be harboring. Having said this, Lin Tianhao turned his head to glance at the four youths, his voice unconsciously rising a notch. Once inside the dungeon, if anyone dares to boss you around or mocks you and causes you any grievance, you tell your father. I will tear their mouths to pieces. This scene immediately startled the four of them, causing them to step back while he could only offer a wry, helpless smile. Afterwards, Lin Tianhao turned his gaze toward Ye Hongyu. Ye Hongyu was to escort the party to the entrance of the dungeon and remain stationed outside to keep watch. Should anyone show the slightest disrespect to Moer along the way, she was authorized to deal with them personally. Understood. A cold glint flashed in Ye Hongyu's eyes as she cast a frigid-piercing stare at Zhang Kai and the others. Zhang Kai and Wang Meng felt a sudden chill run down their spines, and even Xia Qingyu's expression shifted slightly. Come now, Sister Hongyu, there is no need to frighten them. He waved his hand and took the lead, stepping outside. Let us go, do not delay any further. Understood. Young Master Lin, Zhang Kai, and Wang Meng immediately took a stride forward to follow closely behind him, behaving no differently than two pathologically loyal subordinates. He walked in the lead, guiding the group toward the villa's main gate, but the scene that followed caused all four of them to widen their eyes in astonishment. Lining both sides of the villa, 2 rows of maids had been waiting for some time. They suddenly bowed in perfect unison at a 90-degree angle. Travel safely, young master. Mind your surroundings, young master. We wish you a triumphant expedition. The synchronized melodic chorus startled all four of them. Is this truly the lifestyle of the aristocracy? The sheer scale of this presence is truly intimidating. An hour later, the luxury vehicle came to a halt on a desolate rocky plain. Young master, we have arrived. Ye Hongyu walked around the front of the car and respectfully opened the door for him. He stepped out and scanned his surroundings, while Ye Hongyu retrieved the ancient scroll to confirm the coordinates were correct. As the scroll incinerated, a sudden hum resonated through the air. Space itself trembled violently, and a jagged rift radiating a violet hue was torn open. This is the entrance to the dungeon. Ye Hongyu turned to face him. Young master, although this is a professionally trained team, the conditions within the dungeon are unpredictable. You must remain vigilant. If you encounter danger, do not force the situation. Preserving your life is the highest priority. He nodded. Rest assured, Sister Yi, I shall take good care of myself. Afterwards, Ye Hongyu's gaze swept towards Xia Qingyu and the others. Listen closely, all of you. Since you have accepted the Lin family's payment and taken on this mission, you must risk your lives to protect the young master. If he emerges with even a single scratch— Yes, of course, Sister Yi, rest assured, we will definitely use our own lives to protect young Master Lin. Zhang Kai and Wang Meng nodded fervently, their motions so rapid they were near manic, stopping just short of swearing a blood oath. Even Ha Thong Wet, who is usually cold and detached, nodded with a solemn expression. Rest assured, as your team leader, I shall be responsible for everyone's safety. After a moment of vertigo, as if the heavens and earth were spinning, he opened his eyes to see a grim, shadowy corridor of an ancient ruin. The walls were constructed from dark, weathered bluestone bricks, covered in withered vines and moss that emitted a foul, stagnant odor. Along both sides of the corridor, eerie skull-shaped lanterns hung every few meters. This dungeon is truly ominous. He scanned his surroundings and remarked with a light jest. At that moment, Xiaowo began to grow restless. You dare call this flickering light fire? A sickly, cold, pale blue. This is an insult to the sanctity of the flame. This is nothing but a twisted path. I am the true element of fire, the light, the warmth. This pathetic trash masquerading as fire is revolting to witness. System status update. The purifier is enraged. It has sworn to incinerate every false flame within this place. Current state. Irritated and filled with overwhelming killing intent. Damage against undead-type monsters increased by 100%. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. How terrifying to think it could lose its temper so easily. Are you practicing racial discrimination now? Just because their flame is a different color, you want to exterminate them all? Yet there was one thing he still could not grasp. Why was it that this little flame could grant itself a damage buff at the slightest provocation? Could it be because my own handsomeness rivals that of the dashing heroes watching before the screen? But just as he was lost in thought, a soft azure glow suddenly rippled outward. Ha Thong Nuit had already entered a combat stance. Everyone stay sharp, this is a high difficulty dungeon. Regardless of their attributes or combat techniques, the monsters here are not in the same league as the wild beasts we have encountered before. She swept her gaze across the group and began to issue tactical orders. Wang Meng, you are on the front line with your shield. Focus on drawing aggro and ensure the defensive line is never breached. Understood. Wang Meng let out a low roar, slamming his heavy tower shield into the ground. Zhang Kai, you stand to my left. You are responsible for long-range physical damage and reconnaissance. Keep a constant watch on the ceiling and the shadows. Understood. Zhang Kai drew his longbow, his eyes vigilantly scanning the perimeter. Vi, stand in the center and remain prepared to raise your shield and provide healing to Wang Mai at any moment. The young priestess, Lu Weiwei, nodded nervously, gripping the holy staff in her hands. Finally, Xia Qingyu's gaze fell upon him. Young Master Lin, you should stand in the middle of the formation. Having said that, she turned to look at Zhang Kai, emphasizing her tone. Zhang Kai, if any monsters attempt to ambush us from behind, you must provide support for young Master Lin immediately. Zhang Kai understood the intent at once and patted his chest in assurance. Rest assured, Captain. As long as I draw breath, I will not allow a single hair on young Master Lin's head to be harmed. He remained indifferent to Xia Qingyu's arrangement for him. Instead, he pulled some fire-attributed snacks from his pocket. Very well, I shall stand in the back and cheer everyone on. Hearing this, Huo Chushu let out a mocking sneer. Cheer them on while letting this pack of novices protect me? How laughable, that is truly the greatest joke under the heavens. The squad advanced slowly. The ancient ruins were eerily quiet, with only the sound of their heavy footsteps echoing through the corridor. Yet, at that very moment, a faint sound drifted from the pitch-black bend ahead. Halt, Xia Qingyu whispered urgently, her staff glowing with light. Something is approaching. In that instant, the nerves of every team member tightened like a strained bowstring. Within the darkness ahead, two eerie blue flames slowly manifested. Moments later, aided by that faint glow, the group finally beheld the true appearance of the creature. A nether spirit cat, an elite-level monster. While it resembled a feline, its size was comparable to a cheetah, and it possessed extreme agility. To encounter an elite monster as our first opponent, Xia Qingyu's expression shifted instantly. Wang Mai, raise your shield. It is far too fast. Long-range attacks will be difficult to land. Wait for it to close the distance before attacking. Do not waste your mental energy. But before her words could fully fade, a surge of orange-red light erupted from the back of the formation, completely unannounced. Immediately following, a fireball the size of a fist tore through the air with aggressive, unstoppable momentum, streaking past Xia Qingyu and Zhang Kai as it hurtled forward. Witnessing this, Zhang Kai reflexively shouted, Young Master Lin, you should have waited for it to get closer. At such a distance, you cannot possibly hit your mark. Faced with a monster of such high agility, at a distance like this, for novices who had only completed their job advancement 2 days prior, hitting the target was nearly impossible. Casting skills recklessly at this moment was no different than squandering one's mental energy. Indeed, the very moment the fireball was about to strike its mark, the nether spirit cat darted suddenly to the left, the fireball brushing past its flank before vanishing into the distance. As expected, it missed. The fireball had clearly flown past its target, yet it suddenly stalled in midair as if seized by an invisible forceful hand. Huo Chushu sneered, what are you dodging for? The fireball in midair abruptly shifted its trajectory, slamming viciously into the flank of the nether spirit cat. The nether spirit cat let out a harrowing shriek sent tumbling across the ground by the explosion. What on earth? It could actually change direction mid-flight? Witnessing this, Zhang Kai and Xia Qingyu were both stunned, but before they could recover, another fireball whistled past them with a deafening roar. Thanks to the complete Ziyun set he wore, his cooldown reduction reached a staggering 60%. The fireball technique, which originally required a 3-second cooldown, now required barely 1 or 2. Almost the exact moment the first fireball detonated, the second shrieked through the air, immediately followed by a third. The Nether Spirit Cat strained to evade, but 2 violent explosions erupted in rapid succession. As the flames dissipated, the level 5 elite monster had been reduced to nothing more than a pile of charred bones. Watching this, Zhang Kai and Xia Qingyu widened their eyes in disbelief. Dead, with only 3 fireballs? Even Xia Qingyu was filled with shock. As an A-rank water mage and the top honor student in magical theory, she understood better than anyone the implications of what she had just witnessed. Ordinarily, even a flame mage possessing an S-rank affinity for the fire element would require at least 6 fireballs to slay a full health level 5 elite monster. Yet this white slate mage had accomplished it in exactly 3. How was that even possible? Furthermore, the most critical factor was that terrifying ability to perform micromanagement of spells. Is this truly something a white slate mage, who had awakened only 2 days ago, could achieve? Lin Mo, however, merely glanced at them indifferently, casually pulling a crimson seed from his snack pack and popping it into his mouth. Care to try one? It's quite spicy. Only then did the others realize that he had been eating snacks while simultaneously executing that heaven-defying feat of microcontrol. At that moment, Huo Chushu let out a cold snort. Are you all so petrified that you've turned into statues? That was just the basics. Wait until I unleash the heavenly maiden scattering flowers. You'll be so terrified you might just wet yourselves. Listen. Lin Mo swallowed the pine nut in his mouth and looked at them, helplessly brushing the snack crumbs from his hands. Why are you all still standing there like fools? Let us proceed. This godforsaken place is gloomy beyond measure. I am eager to finish this trial early so that I may retire for the night. Hearing his voice, the others snapped out of their stupor, as if waking from a dream. Indeed, you are right. Zhang Kai flinched, the look of disdain in his eyes replaced by a newfound sense of apprehension. Young Master Lin is correct. Young Master Lin is truly formidable. Wang Meng scratched his head in an awkward display of reverence. He seized the opportunity to offer his praise. I told you all along. The aura young Master Lin exudes is that of a hidden expert, easily discerned at a single glance. Those 3 fireball techniques from just moments ago, they were nothing short of a masterpiece. A true display of artistry. Xia Qingyu also regarded him with a complex expression. Initially, she had feared this expedition would be an arduous trial, burdened by having to carry a piece of dead weight. She had even prepared herself to intervene and save him at a moment's notice. But looking at the situation now, it was unclear who the real burden was. Everyone, steady your states of mind. We continue forward. Xia Qingyu regained her composure. Despite her shock, as the team leader, she had to maintain a level head. If young Master Lin possesses such formidable offensive capabilities, we can afford to be more aggressive with our strategy. Wang Meng, take the vanguard and increase our pace. Empowered by a surge of confidence, Wang Meng let out a low roar. However, at that very moment, Lu Wei, who had been relatively quiet since the beginning, suddenly turned deathly pale, her gaze locked onto the pile of white bones ahead. Monsters, there are so many mons. The group's hearts tightened instantly. Following the direction of her finger, they saw the area where the elite Nether Spirit Cat had previously appeared. The darkness was now teeming with countless glowing, ghostly blue eyes. 1 pair, 2 pairs, 10 pairs, there were dozens of them. Every single one was a Nether Spirit Cat. Though smaller than the elite they had just faced, these were common beasts. However, their sheer numbers were overwhelming. It was then that Xia Qingyu's voice rang out sharply. Do not panic. These are merely common-grade Nether Spirit Cats. Aside from their numbers, their attributes are far inferior to that elite beast we just dispatched. Xia Qingyu's gaze hardened as she quickly issued her command. Wang Meng, activate immovable as a mountain and hold the front line. Zhang Kai, use a barrage of arrows to suppress the left flank. Do not let them circle behind us. Wei, shield Wang Meng and prepare for wide-range healing at any moment. Everyone back against the wall and tighten the defensive perimeter. We shall clear them out bit by bit. But before Qingyu could finish setting the formation, a familiar surge of heat suddenly roared out from behind her. Immediately after, a crimson fireball streaked straight toward the dozens of Nether Spirit Cats. Lin, wait, Qingyu reflexively shouted, thinking the young master was far too impulsive. These were, after all, a pack of high-agility monsters. Initiating combat so recklessly would surely enrage the entire pack and trigger a violent frenzy. Yet, in the very next second, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief, staring at the fireball in pure shock. They watched as it shuddered violently before splitting apart in mid-air. In the blink of an eye, it fragmented into over a dozen smaller fireballs, resembling a miniature meteor shower that blanketed the Nether Spirit Cats from above. This is the multi-split fireball explosion? Isn't that a basic skill for fire mages? As a top-tier scholar of theoretical combat, Qingyu recognized it instantly. But before the group could process the revelation, the fireballs hammered into the pack. In an instant, thunderous explosions echoed throughout the ancient ruins. Flames surged toward the heavens, followed by a flurry of notifications appearing in their vision. Nether Spirit Cat slain. Experience points increased by 40. Huo Shu laughed maniacally. Ha ha ha. What do you think of this multi-split fireball? Are you stunned? I only just mastered this technique yesterday. Qingyu quickly regained her composure. As the team leader, she had to organize the offensive immediately. Don't just stand there. Coordinate with Lin to clear the monsters. Give them no room to breathe. Wang Meng handle those that slip through the cracks. Zhang Kai fired pinpoint shots to finish off the weakened targets, though in truth, little support was needed as the young man's assault never ceased. Thanks to the supreme-grade purple cloud set he wore, his cooldown reduction reached a staggering 60%. A powerful AoE skill like this would typically have a lengthy cooldown, but in his hands only 6 seconds had passed, before a second wave of fireballs shrieked through the air, once again splitting into a dozen projectiles mid-flight. Under such a relentless barrage of firepower, the battle concluded in less than half a minute. Qingyu stared blankly at the piles of charred remains. According to Qinyu's initial calculations, dealing with dozens of monsters of this caliber would require the entire team to coordinate with absolute precision, kiting and engaging them with extreme caution for at least 10 minutes to emerge victorious. But what about now? In less than half a minute, the entire world has fallen into silence. This is truly peak performance. Master Lin. Zhang Kai spoke with a dry, stiff voice. Everyone's eyes shifted toward him in unison. At that moment, he was still busy munching on his snacks. Being stared at so intensely, he felt slightly embarrassed. He had only been eating his treats while watching the spectacle. All of this was the work of little Huo. It had nothing to do with him. Xiaqing stood rooted to the spot, staring at him before she couldn't help but speak up. Master Lin, that technique just now was the beginner-level firefish skill, multi-stage fireball explosion, was it not? He tossed the last pine nut into his mouth, dusted the crumbs from his hands, and nodded in response. That is correct. The technique involves elemental splitting and secondary detonation. Xiaqing's gaze became complex, yet she ultimately took a deep breath and probed tentatively. Master Lin, if I may be so bold as to ask a question, how many skill manuals did you consume to master this? In Xiaqingyu's estimation, a blank slate mage lacks elemental affinity, and attempting to learn an advanced elemental skill is truly as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not to mention a blank slate mage, even a specialist fire mage, often requires a significant number of skill manuals to assist in the comprehension of new abilities. Therefore, she reasoned that this Master Lin must have poured through dozens, perhaps even over 100 manuals. Is this the foundation of the He sect? One must know that skill manuals are prohibitively expensive. Even a beginner-level manual costs hundreds of millions of credits or more. Before he could even respond, Xiaqingyu hastily added, Master Lin, if this is inconvenient to answer, please pretend I never asked. As it turned out, he only scratched his head with a bewildered expression. Skill manuals? I have never even seen one before. As these words were spoken, Xiaqingyu stood completely stunned. Never, she had never seen such a thing before. You mean to say that you haven't used a single skill manual? That is correct. You shrugged casually as if to say, wasn't it just a matter of splitting the energy and adding another burst? Is that truly so difficult? No sooner had you finished speaking than your skill tab began to tremble violently. The flame technique seemed unable to endure your arrogance any longer. Is it difficult? It is only easy because of this seat. It is clear that I risked my life on the plains last night to comprehend this technique. What were you doing at that time? You were fast asleep. The flame technique expressed nothing but contempt, as if mocking you for acting so pompous that it would eventually be struck by lightning. Shameless, to dare steal the credit for my hard-earned labor, does your conscience not sting? You remained expressionless, silently retorting in your heart, be quiet. Do you still wish to eat the spicy red flame fire dragon sauté tonight? Upon hearing this, the flame technique immediately went silent, its status updated to enduring humiliation, and its damage output increased by 100%. Seeing the little flame finally settle down, you felt a sense of immense satisfaction. It must be said that acting arrogant every once in a while is quite exhilarating. Xiaqingyu opened her mouth, intending to say something, but realized she had no words to offer. Self-comprehension, even for those with S-rank elemental affinity, is an exceptionally difficult feat. Yet this Lin, who holds only a blank slate profession, managed to comprehend it on the very second day after his class change. Looking at the proficiency displayed during his casting, he had likely mastered it since the very first day. A talent such as this is truly terrifying. Just then, Zhang Kai jumped up from the side, shouting that it must be talent, top-tier talent without a doubt. Captain, everyone, just think about it. If one were to rely solely on forcing a skill manual at the starting level, even an S-rank fire mage could at most split 3 to 5 fireballs. Zhang Kai gestured toward the dense burn marks covering the ground, but just now, Lin split 15 of them. 15 of them. What does that signify? It signifies that Lin's mastery of this skill has reached the realm of great perfection. This is absolutely not an effect that a skill manual alone could achieve. Clearly, this is an absolute, peerless magical genius. There has been none before him, and it is unlikely there will be any after. Compared to Lin, those S-rank fire attribute geniuses might as well return home to herd pigs. After hearing Zhang Kai's long-winded speech, Xiaqingyu felt an overwhelming urge to bury her head in the ground. If even S-ranks should go back to herding pigs, then an A-rank like her could only go home and play in the mud. As for Wang Meng and Liu Weiwei, who stood nearby, they were struck with sudden enlightenment after hearing his analysis. The way everyone looked at him was no different than looking at a living, breathing deity. Being lauded so heavily, his scalp began to tingle. It must be said that as a bootlicker, Zhang Kai truly met the highest standards. Alright, that is enough. He waved his hand, feeling slightly awkward, and cut off Zhang Kai's rehearsed praise. It is not that exaggerated, it is merely good fortune. Let us continue. The sooner we clear this stage, the sooner we can rest. Xia Qingyu gradually recovered from the shock. She looked at him, the respect in her eyes deepening. Not only was his talent beyond compare, but he remained humble and reserved. This was the true bearing of a superior expert. Hearing that Lin was continuing forward, everyone followed. Xia Qingyu immediately gave the order to maintain the formation. Since Lin has unleashed his full firepower, we must increase our pace to the limit. Meanwhile, on the rocky clearing outside the dungeon, Ye Hongyu leaned against the front of a vehicle. Several monster heads scattered beneath her feet. Half an hour has passed, Ye Hongyu murmured, glancing at her wrist, her brows furrowing slightly. But at that very moment, with a deep thrum, a tremor surged up from the earth. Immediately thereafter, an aura of stifling extreme malevolence descended upon the entire rocky clearing. Witnessing this, Ye Hongyu's expression shifted violently. She suddenly snapped her head toward the spatial rift. The entrance to the dungeon, which had previously radiated a mysterious violet light, was now engulfed by a thick, swirling darkness, surging forward like a demon's eye emerging from the depths of hell, slowly prying itself open. Subsist corruption? Ye Hongyu's pupils contracted. How can this be? As a seasoned military veteran, Ye Hongyu understood perfectly what this sight signified. In this world, dungeons are divided into two types. One is the permanent dungeon, which is long-standing, stable, and safe. The other is a temporary dungeon space opened by a random dungeon scroll. These temporary dungeons have an incredibly low, minuscule probability of being eroded by abyssal energy from another dimension. How minuscule is that probability? 1 in 1,000, or perhaps even lower. For the past 8 years, not a single instance of abyssal corruption has manifested within Zhanghai City. This is disastrous. The young master is in danger. Ye Hongyu's fingertips trembled as she immediately turned around, pulling out her phone to call Lin Tianhao at once. Meanwhile, deep within the ancient fortress, the already gloomy and eerie corridors began to undergo even more bizarre transformations. The skull lamps mounted on the walls, fueled by ghostly azure flames, suddenly flared violently, their hue shifting from deep blue to a thundering violet. This is not good. Xia Qingyu, leading the party, stopped abruptly, her eyes fixed intently on the swirling mist ahead, while simultaneously scanning the surrounding environment for any further changes. Captain, what is it? Zhang Kai, trailing behind and still somewhat oblivious, asked instinctively. Xia Qingyu did not cease her observation of the surroundings, as if confirming and re-verifying a grim reality. Finally, she uttered a single sentence. It has undergone abyssal corruption. As these words fell, the expressions of the others instantly froze. Every one of them understood all too well what abyssal corruption signified. Abyssal corruption? Zhang Kai was so terrified his legs went weak, and he frantically scrambled to retrieve his return scroll. But, strangely, while a faint glimmer of light flickered from the scroll, nothing else occurred. The return scroll showed no response. It had truly succumbed to abyssal corruption. Zhang Kai's voice trembled violently. His eyes filled with hollowness and despair. An atmosphere of hopelessness immediately permeated the entire team. Lu Wei, the timid priestess, had to cover her mouth to stifle her sobbing. Even Wang Meng, the stalwart man, found his hand gripping his shield, trembling uncontrollably. What are we to do? Zhang Kai looked toward Xia Qingyu, then shifted his gaze toward him. Before entering the dungeon, the way they looked at him had likely been one of disdain, viewing him as nothing more than a wealthy young master who would only serve as a burden. But after that storm-like sweep through the dungeon, at this moment his position in their hearts had almost surpassed even Xia Qingyu's, becoming the spiritual pillar for the entire team. Zhang Kai's voice shook, accompanied by a choked sob. What should we do now? He stared into the pitch-black path ahead, feeling utterly speechless in his heart. What in the world is happening? After 18 years, I finally obtained my golden finger, only to encounter a 1 in 100,000 probability the moment I stepped outside. My luck is truly peerless. That is an abyssal dungeon, a location that requires an elite team of top-tier cultivators to even have a glimmer of hope in clearing it. The little fireball is inhaling the abyssal aura from the air, trembling with intense excitement. This scent, this aroma filled with tyranny, destruction, and corruption, it is absolutely magnificent. The little fireball laughs like a madman. This is what should be called a true dungeon. The previous ones were merely child's play. I can feel the blood in my veins burning. This is the calling from the abyss. My current state is one of extreme exhilaration, and my damage against abyssal-type monsters is increased by 200%. Looking at this fearless of chaos skill, he could only sigh. The stronger the opponent, the stronger he becomes. Is that it? But even with a 200% damage bonus, it is not certain we can defeat the abyssal boss. He brushed the dust off his hands and spoke indifferently. Very well, do not be disheartened. Since there is no road left for retreat, we can only press forward. Xia Qingyu took a deep breath and gripped her staff tightly once more. Her gaze became resolute. Young Master Lin is right. Crying is useless. We have no choice but to stake our lives on this. Everyone listen, tighten the formation, protect young Master Lin at all costs. We are charging in. The journey that followed could be described as nothing short of catastrophic. After undergoing abyssal corruption, the monsters not only saw their attributes skyrocket, but their aggression became truly frenzied. The monsters that previously required only a few fireballs to dispatch now demanded significantly heavier suppression fire. Fortunately, the purple cloud set he wore possessed a cooldown reduction effect that was truly monstrous, combined with a 200% damage bonus against abyssal-type monsters from the little fireball. The entire team advanced steadily, overcoming danger after danger, pushing straight toward the depths of the dungeon. His level increased to 6 and the others all reached level 5. Standing before a massive black gate over 10 meters tall, Xiaqingyu's voice grew hoarse. "We are here, the boss is inside," but before they could even push the doors, the enormous gate slowly swung open on its own. Instantly, a terrifying wave of pressure surged outward. In the center of the hall, perched upon a throne fashioned from white bones, sat a daunting figure. It was the Abyssal Skeleton Knight boss. It wore a battered suit of black heavy armor. Beneath its helmet there was no face, only two dancing clusters of violet soulfire. In its hand it gripped a great sword 2 meters in length, and beneath it stood a skeletal warhorse wreathed in hellfire. "Intruders," a terrifying rasping voice echoed throughout the entire hall. Along with that roar, a wave of killing intent slammed directly into their faces. Just from this brief encounter, Zhang Kai and Lu Weiwei found it difficult to breathe. They nearly lost the courage to even raise their weapons. Even Wang Meng, who was always composed, was shaken. At this moment, Qinchen's hands were trembling violently. Although it was only a level 5 boss, that terrifying abyssal aura was infinitely more daunting than any monster they had ever encountered before. However, Fireball Technique was extremely excited. This was what a true opponent should be. Let this seat face it. Xia Qingyu forced down the fear in her heart, swung her staff, and shouted loudly, "Do not be afraid. It is only level 5, and with Lin here with us, we are not without a chance of victory. Wang Meng, take the front, Lin, prepare yourself." But before she could finish, and before he even needed to raise his hand, a shing sound echoed. A crimson-orange afterimage surged directly past them all, rushing straight toward the skeletal knight upon the throne. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering explosion instantly echoed throughout the vast, empty hall, fueled by the terrifying damage modifier of plus 200% against abyssal-type monsters. The power of this fireball was truly astonishing. That's right. Zhang Kai beamed with joy and clenched his fists. However, the very next second his smile froze as the dust settled and the flames flickered out. The skeletal knight remained seated upon the throne, its posture completely unmoved. Around its body, a translucent semi-visible shield pulsed with an eerie violet light radiating a frigid aura. That strike had not even managed to produce a single crack upon that barrier. Fireball Technique stood frozen, unable to believe its own eyes. I couldn't even break its defense? That was a strike of fury from this seat, augmented by a 200% damage bonus. Unreasonable. The skeletal knight slowly raised its head, its soulfire eyes flickering with a look of mockery. Immediately after, it leaped up, landed upon the back of its warhorse, and spurred the steed forward, wreathed in blue netherfire. It charged straight toward them. The ground trembled. "Look out! Wang Meng, stop it!" Xia Qingyu immediately commanded loudly. "Ah, I'll bet my life against you." Immovable as a mountain, Wang Meng's eyes turned bloodshot as he roared, slamming his tower shield into a crack in the ground. The very next second, that 5-meter-long greatsword slammed heavily against the shield. Clang! Whoosh! Wang Meng, along with his shield, was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood midair before crashing violently into a wall over 10 meters away. Lu Weiwei screamed and rushed toward Wang Meng, crying out, "How could this be? Even a fireball of that magnitude from young Master Lin could not shake it." Zhang Kai's face turned deathly pale, drained of all color. Lin Mo stood amidst the formation, not in the least panicked, merely knitting his brows slightly. "This is truly troublesome." "Xiaohuo, do not stop. Fall back. Do not let it get near you." "Fireball Technique," the spirit roared. "Do you think I need you to remind me? I am far from finished with this thing." Boom. The great hall was instantly engulfed in a sea of fire as explosions rang out in rapid succession, triggered by the relentless barrage of the Fireball Technique and the multifold explosive fireball. The skeleton knight was forced back repeatedly, but as the flames dissipated, the swirling violet shield remained intact, without even a single crack. Lin Mo watched the scene, his gaze darkening. It appeared that if this shield could not be broken, it would be impossible to slay this boss. The fireball spirit ceased its shouting, staring intensely at the barrier. The fireball spirit fell into deep contemplation. Why, despite the continuous explosions, would the state of the shield not shatter? It was deep in thought, as if it were on the verge of developing a mind of its own. Its intelligence was reaching a new peak. It was on the precipice of enlightenment, and Lin Mo raised an eyebrow. Chapter 15. Awakening. The flaming dragon spiral shell erupted. Under the relentless bombardment, the surging shock waves made the skeleton knight feel deeply humiliated. The two clusters of violet soulfire flickering in its sockets bypassed the others, locking firmly onto Lin Mo. It was clear that the creature had realized that among the ants before it, only this young man posed a genuine threat. Once he was dead, the bothersome flames would inevitably vanish. This is not good. Xia Qingyu lunged forward suddenly, shielding Lin Mo. A look of fierce determination flashed in her eyes. She was the team captain, the one responsible for the success of this mission. She had accepted payment from the Lin family. Even if she were to perish, she could not allow her employer to die before her. Xia Qingyu turned back abruptly, her exquisitely cold features now covered in dust and grime. "Young Master Lin, you must run. I will risk my life to hold it back." Just as she finished speaking, a burly figure also stepped forward to stand before Lin Mo. Wang Meng raised his shield and turned to shout, "Lin, I will hold it back. You must flee." Observing his two companions preparing for a heroic sacrifice, Lin Mo let out a sigh of resignation. He delivered a swift kick directly to Wang Meng's rear. "Have you all lost your minds?" Lin Mo looked at them as if they were fools, fleet aware. Are we to find a hiding spot, only to sit there and starve to death? Xia Qingyu was stunned, caught off guard by Lin Mo's sudden rebuke. Her mind momentarily went blank. Lin Mo's gaze grew cold as he looked toward the arrogant skeleton knight, deciding he would slay the creature and walk out with his head held high. If the shield does not shatter in one strike, then 100 or 1,000 strikes will suffice. We will crush it into oblivion. Upon hearing these words, Xia Qingyu felt a tremor of realization. It was true, beyond battle there was no other path. To die while charging forward was far better than cowering in a corner waiting for the end. Lin is right. Zhang Kai, who had been collapsed on the ground, managed to scramble back to his feet. Though his legs were still trembling violently, his eyes now burned with a near-maniacal ferocity. Damn it, we are going to die regardless, so we might as well risk everything. Lin, tell us how to fight. We will follow your lead. Wang Meng tightened his grip on his shield once more. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Wang Meng gritted his teeth and declared, "We follow Lin. Let us finish this." Not far away, the skeleton knight slowly lowered its posture, its skeletal warhorse incessantly clawing at the earth, scattering sparks in every direction. The two blue soul fires within its sockets burned with a frantic intensity. Seeing everyone's fighting spirit reignited, the corner of Lin Mo's mouth curled upward. At this moment, within the depths of his mind, Xiao Wo sensed the heavy atmosphere of the impending clash. The fireball technique was in a state of extreme agitation. It knew that to pierce through those defenses, the entirety of the flames had to be compressed. It desperately sought to force the massive elemental fire into the center, striving to condense it into a single point. But the elemental fire was far too volatile. The slightest pressure caused it to detonate and scatter in every direction. It was fundamentally impossible to stabilize its form. You are truly dense, why not simply make it spin? When the rotational speed reaches its limit, the entire energy will be locked at the core, preventing it from dissipating. Extreme rotation will grant extreme penetration. Do you understand now? Lin Mo could not help but offer a few words of guidance. Within his consciousness, the small fireball, which had been roaring in fury, suddenly fell silent. The flame art technique murmured as it began to spin, and within its non-existent mind, a flash of insight ignited. The flame art was deducing an entirely new method of elemental arrangement. The flame art was beside itself with exhilaration. Haha, a genius, I am truly a genius. System message. Congratulations, the flame art has successfully self-evolved and derived a high-level skill. Skill unlocked, Spiral Flame Dragon Bullet, a focused high-tier fire attribute attack dealing massive damage to a single target. With a cooldown of 30 seconds, Lin Mo watched as the little flame comprehended the new skill, unable to suppress a clicking of his tongue in admiration. The concept of spinning sounds simple enough, but in practice, it is incredibly difficult to execute. Fire elemental energy is inherently the most volatile and destructive of all elements. To force them to rotate at extreme speeds while compressed to their limit is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Even the slightest mistake would cause the internal elemental structure to collapse, detonating directly in the caster's hand. Only a freak of nature like Little Fire, possessing both an independent consciousness and an almost pathological level of control over fire elements, could accomplish what was theoretically impossible, simply based on a single point of guidance. Since you have learned it, put it to the test. Lin Mo remained composed. He slowly raised his right hand, forming his fingers into the shape of a pistol, and aimed it directly at the skeletal knight. A faint smirk touched his lips. Xiao, the top student, a true mage requires more than just area of effect spells. One must also possess a finishing move. Hearing this, Xia Qingyu froze. A finishing move? The others also looked at Lin Mo, their eyes filled with disbelief. Could it be that this fellow Lin had just comprehended yet another new skill? Surely skills do not simply appear the moment one wishes for them. Before the crowd could recover their senses, a soft hum echoed and a scorching fireball condensed at the tip of Lin Mo's finger. The next second, the massive fireball began to vibrate violently, spinning with frantic intensity. Whir, whir, whir. The surrounding air was sucked dry in an instant, forming a vortex visible to the naked eye. Under the dual effect of centrifugal and centripetal forces generated by the high-speed rotation, the fireball began to shrink at a rate clearly perceptible to the eye. It condensed from the size of a fist down to the size of a ping-pong ball, its volume continuously decreasing. The color of the flame underwent a transmutation, shifting from its original orange-red to a deep, ominous crimson. Though it was now but a tiny point of fire, the terrifying energy contained within it caused the surrounding space to ripple and distort like the surface of a pond. The violent currents of air were drawn back inward, causing Lin Mo's robes to whip around. At this very moment, the roar of the little fire spirit and the voice of Lin Mo merged into one. Fireball technique. Crush him. Simultaneously, Lin Mo curled his fingers in the air. The crimson spark, compressed to its absolute limit, tore through the air with a deafening sonic boom. The flame, spinning at an extreme velocity, rubbed against the atmosphere and left a terrifying spiral trail of fire in its wake. Where it passed, the bluestone tiles on the ground shattered inch by inch, swept into the air by the violent surge of energy. An earth-shattering explosion instantly threatened to tear through everyone's eardrums. The entire hall trembled under the force of this single strike. A beam of deep, crimson fire pierced through the skeletal knight's violet shield in the blink of an eye. The shield shattered into fragments, dissolving into countless motes of light, while the skeletal knight was struck by the force. The massive shockwave sent it flying back several dozen meters. It slammed violently into the white bone throne behind it, sending dust billowing into the air. Shattered, Zhang Kai stared at the scene before him, unable to believe his eyes. That supposedly impenetrable violet shield had completely vanished, leaving only the acrid scent of scorching heat lingering in the air. Xia Qingyu and the others stood frozen in place. A single strike? Was it truly just one strike? Furthermore, it was a direct confrontation. He had utilized a pinpoint strike to shatter the very defense that had left them completely helpless. Just what kind of heaven-defying monster is this young Master Lin? Just as everyone was questioning reality, he spoke, "Why are you still standing there?" Lin Mo blew gently on his still hot fingertips and glanced at the group, his eyes sharpening. "Strike while it is wounded and end its life. If we cannot even pass this stage, I will eat the wreckage of the vehicle outside this dungeon in the wasteland." The previously desolate and silent empty land was now illuminated like midday by dozens of blinding military searchlights. Hundreds of soldiers from the defense army, fully equipped, quickly unfurled yellow caution tape to seal off the dungeon entrance completely. With a thunderous tearing of the air, the sturdy figure of Lin Tianhao descended from above, landing with a heavy thud. At this moment, he had not even had time to properly dress in his uniform, having merely draped a black cloak over his shoulders. His bare chest heaved violently, and his typically majestic tiger eyes were bloodshot. Beside him, the silhouette of Su Wan appeared. Though her face was pale, her posture remained unyielding. As a powerful woman who commanded a massive commercial empire, she knew that in moments like these, she could not afford to show any weakness before the crowd. "Commander." Seeing to approach, Ye Hongyu immediately stepped forward to meet them. "What is the situation?" Lin Tianhao nodded slightly, his voice raspy. Biting her lip, Ye Hongyu began her report. "The young master and the others entered the instance dungeon about 45 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, the dungeon underwent a complete abyssal corruption." Suan stumbled, muttering softly, "How could this be? Such an occurrence hasn't happened in years. Why must it fall upon Moer at this very moment?" Lin Tianhao stared fixedly at the pitch-black entrance, his fists clenched so tightly they began to crack. Lightning danced violently around him. Everyone present understood all too well what an abyssal corruption signified. Once a dungeon has been subjected to abyssal corruption, if it is not cleared within 24 hours, all the monsters within will spill out into the world, causing a catastrophic disaster. However, fortunately, this is only a low-level dungeon. The monsters inside are not exceptionally powerful, and the Zhanghai City military is more than capable of handling them. Just then, the screech of tires echoed from beyond the perimeter line. Several black military off-road vehicles came to a halt, their doors opening to reveal a group of men exuding an extraordinary presence. The middle-aged man leading the group wore a crisp suit and gold-rimmed spectacles. Behind him stood a youth with an arrogant expression, accompanied by 4 young professionals adorned in exquisite gear, their gazes sharp and piercing. "Old Lin, what is the situation?" The middle-aged man strode up beside Lin Tianhao, his voice calm as he asked. Lin Tianhao turned his head, his brow furrowed deeply. "Zhao Lei, why are you here?" The newcomer was a figure of equal standing to Lin Tianhao, one of the garrison commanders of Zhanghai City, Zhao Lei. The youth standing behind Zhao Lei was his greatest source of pride. He was the one who had awakened an S-rank fire elemental affinity, the talented blaze mage Zhao Yu. With an event of this magnitude, as one of the garrison commanders of Zhanghai, it is only natural that I be present. Zhao Lei adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his gaze resting upon the corrupted dungeon entrance, a flicker of complexity flashing in his eyes. Abyssal corruption, such a 1 in 100,000 chance, it is truly a pity. Pausing for a moment, Zhao Lei turned to look at Lin Tianhao, inquiring, "Old Lin, I heard reports from my subordinates that a team is trapped within that dungeon, and that your son is among them." Upon hearing this, Lin Tianhao's breath hitched for a moment before he nodded heavily. Having received confirmation, Zhao Lei continued to ask, "Then, what is the composition of that team? Aside from your son, who else is with them? What are their levels? What of their equipment?" Lin Tianhao remained silent for a long moment. Beside him, Deep Hong Nok answered on his behalf. "Aside from the young master, there is a water elemental mage of rank A, a shield bearer of rank B, and a priest of rank A." Before entering the dungeon, they were all at level 4, equipped with gold-tier gear. As these words were spoken, Zhao Lei immediately frowned, while his son, Zhao Yu, standing behind him, wore a mocking expression. After all, he and Lin Mo were both children of the elite families. Since they were young, they had always been compared to one another. Over time, Zhao Yu had developed a deep resentment toward Lin Mo. Attempting to clear a hard difficulty elemental dungeon with such a team is truly impossible. "You are being foolish, old Lin. You are usually so shrewd. How could you be so muddled this time?" Zhao Lei sighed, his tone filled with frustration, as if he were lamenting a piece of iron that failed to become steel. "If you wanted someone to lead your Lin Mo in leveling up, you only needed to say a word to me. Wouldn't having Xiao Yu lead a team be far superior to this ragtag group?" Zhao Lei shook his head, took a deep breath, and continued. "With this configuration, I suspect they will struggle even to break the enemy's defenses. Their survival rate is practically 0. Stop standing there acting as if you hold the moral high ground," Lin Tianhao retorted in a cold voice. This was originally just a routine dungeon run for leveling. Who could have foreseen that they would encounter the 1 in 1,000 chance of an abyssal corruption? "Zhao Lei, stop pretending to be the benevolent one." Lin Tianhao and Zhao Lei had been rivals for half their lives. Throughout their history, whether in military achievements or personal cultivation, Lin Tianhao had always maintained an edge over his opponent. Now that Zhao Lei's son had shown promise, for him to lower himself and beg Zhao Lei to let his son lead Lin Mo in training would be more agonizing than death itself. Furthermore, no one could have anticipated such a disastrous event as the abyssal corruption. Fine, I will not argue with you about this anymore. The situation has reached this point. Further words are useless. Xiao glanced at Lin Tianhao, deciding not to provoke him further. After all, Lin Tianhao's son was on the verge of death. If he were to truly incite him, the resulting outburst would be something even Zhao Lei could not easily withstand. Fortunately, this is only a hard difficulty dungeon. Once the dungeon reopens, my house will have Xiao Yu lead them. Zhao Lei gestured toward the group of youths standing behind him. This dungeon has a level restriction of 3 to 5, and they have all reached level 5. They are all equipped with legendary grade gear. Their coordination is impeccable. This is the only force in Zhanghai City currently capable of clearing this abyss-grade dungeon. Hearing this, Zhao Yu stepped forward, his face bearing the confidence and arrogance of an S-rank genius. Zhao Yu spoke, "Uncle Lin Aunt Su, please rest assured. Even though Mo might have a slim chance of survival, I will remain fully prepared. Once the dungeon resets, I will be the first to lead the team inside, personally decapitate that boss, and avenge Mo." At that very moment, Suwan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly raised her head. Within her reddened eyes burned the stubbornness and refusal to yield that only a mother could possess. "Who says Mo must be dead?" Suwan's voice, though trembling slightly, was uncharacteristically firm. "The dungeon has not yet reopened, which means they are still alive. I believe in my son. Who knows, perhaps Mo not only survived but cleared this abyss dungeon while he was at it? Right, old Lin." Suwan turned to look at Lin Tianhao, a glimmer of desperate hope flickering in her eyes. It was as if only Lin Tianhao would nod, their son would truly be alive. Lin Tianhao met his wife's gaze. Clear the dungeon? How could he not know how impossible such a task was? But looking at his wife's tear-filled eyes, he could not bear to utter the cruel word no. Lin Tianhao drew a deep breath, his voice raspy. "Yes, Mo will surely do it. He will definitely succeed." Hearing the words of the couple, Zhao Lei paused briefly, then shook his head in frustration, choosing not to argue further. A blank slate mage with no natural talent, leading a ragtag team, thinking they could clear an abyss-grade dungeon. It is nothing more than a preposterous fantasy. Lei adjusted his glasses, a cold smirk forming in his heart. If someone with a configuration like Lin Mo truly clears this, Zhao Lei will eat the tires off this military off-road vehicle raw today. Chapter 17. If you want to eat, call me father. Inside the dungeon, the skeleton knight was currently pinned deep within the ruins of the white bone throne. After having its shield shattered, it had fallen into a weakened state. "Listen to me, Lin," he commanded. "Strike while the enemy is crippled to claim its life. I shall end you here." Zhang Kai roared, pulling his longbow taut as arrows rained down like a storm upon the skeleton knight. Wang Meng charged forward with his shield raised, slamming it with great force against the skeleton knight's kneecap. While the damage dealt was minimal, the humiliation was immense. Meanwhile, Xia Qingyu, the team's A-rank water element mage, drew a deep breath and swung her staff. Streams of deep azure water coalesced in midair, forming sharp projectiles that struck the boss in rapid succession. As for Lin Mo, he remained a bystander, casually snacking while watching the spectacle unfold. Xiao Huo entered a state of autonomous slaughter, launching a frenzied barrage of attacks. Against the boss, boom, boom, boom. The massive inferno ignited by the explosion swallowed the boss in an instant. The sheer chain of consecutive damage caused Zhang Kai and the others to twitch in disbelief. This is what one calls true firepower. Compared to Lin Mo, their efforts were nothing more than a mild itch. Under the tempestuous assault of the entire team, the long health bar hovering above the skeleton knight's head began to plummet at a rate visible to the naked eye. Before long, its HP had dropped below 70%. From within the ruins, a roar of extreme fury erupted. The skeleton knight suddenly swung its great sword, releasing a terrifying shockwave that sent its opponent flying. Wang Meng, who stood nearest, was caught in the blast. Immediately afterward, that pale purple translucent shield, a sight that brought only despair, once again encased the creature's entire body. It was happening again. Seeing this, Zhang Kai instinctively turned his head toward the back of the formation. Lin Mo was still there, completely at ease. Without a wasted word, he raised his hand and unleashed another strike. A deep crimson point of light rapidly condensed, compressing and spiraling at the tip of Lin Mo's finger. Go. He flicked his finger. With a resounding boom, the outcome was settled without a hint of suspense. The spiral of dark red flame once again pierced through the purple shield. The barrier, having only just manifested, shattered into a rain of starlight. The skeleton knight let out a shriek of agony, its massive frame sent flying once more before crashing heavily against the wall. Brother Lin is truly amazing. Brother Lin is invincible. Zhang Kai was so excited he leaped into the air, continuing to unleash his volleys while shouting. Although Xia Qingyu had witnessed this technique once before, she could not help but steal a glance at Lin Mo, who remained as composed as if he were on a stroll. Illuminated by the flickering flames, Lin Mo's figure appeared even more upright and imposing. His dark hair swayed slightly in the scorching heat, and his profile, cast in the interplay of firelight and shadow, appeared remarkably sharp. With sword-like brows and star-bright eyes, his expression remained unchanged even as the pressure of Mount Tai collapsed before him. Coupled with a face of extraordinary handsomeness, it caused even Xia Qingyu, the top beauty who had always held herself above others, to inadvertently skip a heartbeat. Was this truly the demeanor of a genuine powerhouse? Xia Qingyu's gaze rested upon the tips of Lin Mo's fingers. As a top student, she understood better than anyone the value of this technique, which was still wreathed in blue smoke. The fire element is recognized by all under heaven as the most volatile, and to compress fire essence to its absolute limit while maintaining a high-speed rotation is no simple feat. Although this spiral flame dragon bullet is merely a basic skill, the difficulty of mastering it is by no means inferior to that of a high-level technique. Furthermore, its damage output is entirely commensurate with that difficulty. It is the basic skill with the highest single-target damage among all professions, including even the hidden ones. There is no second like it. Lin Mo, young master of the Lin family, exactly what kind of monster are you? The following battle held almost no more suspense. Each time the skeleton knight struggled to raise its shield again, it would be ruthlessly shattered by a spiral flame dragon bullet from Lin Mo's fingertips before it could even strike a pose. After repeating this 3 times, the massive frame of the skeleton knight collapsed with a thunderous crash, transforming into a heap of bones emitting black mist. Congratulations on successfully slaying the Abyss-class foe. Level 5 Skeleton Knight. Experience points gained, 20,000. Congratulations, your level has increased to level 7. A golden aura of advancement erupted around Lin Mo. We won. We actually won. Lu Weiwei collapsed to the ground, staring at the pile of bones, weeping with joy. Ha ha ha, I am not dead. I have cleared the Abyss-level dungeon. Zhang Kai was even more frantic, rushing over to embrace Wang Meng while jumping and shouting. Even the typically cold and aloof Xia Qingyou could not help but let the corners of her mouth curl upward at this moment. This was, after all, an Abyss-level dungeon. Although it was only a low difficulty setting, its value was enough to leave a brilliant and indelible mark on their achievement records. Look quickly, what items have dropped? Wang Meng pointed at the several halos of light hovering. Lin Mo cast a casual glance over the item, examining the gear and materials that had dropped. The most valuable item among them was a piece of gold-tier equipment, yet it was specifically designed for a warrior. And as for gold-tier equipment, Lin Mo truly held it in little regard. You all should divide these items amongst yourselves. Lin Mo gestured toward the glowing loot with a wave of his hand, but before his words had fully faded, the voice of Xia Qingyu rang out. Absolutely not. She looked at Lin Mo, her expression filled with stern determination. Master Lin, that would be against all conventions. Firstly, you are the leader. Everything that drops within this dungeon belongs to you by right. Secondly, without your intervention, not only would we have failed to clear the dungeon, but we likely would not have survived at all. Therefore, whether by reason or sentiment, these spoils must belong to you. Having said this, Xia Qingyu took a deep breath before stating her decision. Not only will we refuse these spoils, but once we exit this place, we will also return the entire fee that Uncle Lin paid us. Being able to follow you into this dungeon has allowed us to gain so much experience, and gaining 2 levels in such a short time is already a massive windfall for us. One must not be overly greedy, lest the heavens take offense. Zhang Kai, Wang Meng, and the others were stunned upon hearing this. That was gold-tier equipment they were talking about. To say they weren't tempted would be a lie, but it did not take long. Zhang Kai quickly composed himself. The captain is right, Master Lin, all of these items are yours. The rest of the group expressed their agreement, one after another. Lin Mo swept his gaze across them, feeling somewhat helpless. This scrap metal was truly of no use to him. In this day and age, these items might be considered treasures by others, but since they were so adamant, Lin Mo could not be bothered to argue further. Fine, have it your way then. He flicked his wrist, collecting all the loot from the ground and tucking it securely into his system inventory. Seeing Lin Mo accept the items, Xia Qingyu finally let out a sigh of relief. She looked at him and spoke casually, Master Lin, the grand examination is the day after tomorrow. With your current strength, you should easily qualify for the Tianlong Academy in the capital. As she spoke, a trace of admiration flickered in Xia Qingyu's eyes. That place is the sacred sanctuary of every professional in the entire Long Kingdom, the Supreme Academy. It gathers the most monstrous geniuses from across the nation. Even the guards stationed at its gates are likely retired high-level professionals. Graduates from that institution start their careers at the level of a city's military commander at the very least. They are in truth the backbone of humanity. The Tianlong Academy, you say? Lin Mo raised an eyebrow. Does it even matter? As long as the dormitories are comfortable and the cafeteria food is good, that is enough. A Supreme Academy surely wouldn't be lacking in those regards, right? Just then, Zhang Kai, who was standing nearby, suddenly interjected. I have heard that Zhanghai City is being quite extravagant this time. They are preparing a reward for the city's top scholar, a complete heart of a magma behemoth. Hearing this, Wang Meng's hands trembled and he gasped in shock. Incredible, that is truly an extravagant reward. The magma behemoth is already an exceedingly rare beast. On the market, even a small sliver of its flesh would command an astronomical price, and it is the kind of treasure that money cannot always secure. The fire manipulation technique drooled like a waterfall. I must have it. The name Magma Behemoth alone tells me it is a treasure meant for me, especially since it is something one cannot buy with mere wealth. Lin Mo rubbed his chin. Although his family was quite wealthy, in this world there are certain things that money alone cannot procure. After all, his family is not the only one with deep pockets. The fire manipulation technique was consumed by intense greed. Did you hear that? This sovereign must have it. With it, I will surely take a step closer to becoming a forbidden spell. Lin Mo chuckled softly, deliberately teasing this irritable skill. You want it? If you want it, call me father and I might begrudgingly consider bringing that top scholar title back for you. Instantly, the fire manipulation technique bristled with indignation. I am a noble existence destined to become a forbidden spell. How dare you demand that I call you father? Lin Mo shrugged indifferently in his mind. If that is the case, then so be it. I was already too lazy to compete for it anyway. Participating in this grand examination is merely a formality. After all, every academy is much the same. It is a pity about that heart. I heard it is overflowing with the essence of the fire element, and that it bursts with juices upon the first bite. The firehound remained silent. The firehound swallowed a mouthful of saliva that in truth did not exist. Its pride when faced with such delicious sustenance was wavering violently. A few seconds later, an extremely awkward voice echoed within Lin Mo's mind. The firehound, caught between embarrassment and reluctance, muttered in a hushed tone. Have you not eaten, father? Lin Mo, seeing an opportunity, pushed his luck even further. The firehound, shamed into anger, snapped back. Know your limits. I have already summoned it for you, have I not? Very well. Lin Mo, finding no further joy in teasing the little fire spirit, waved his hand toward the others. Let us depart. Sister Yi must be on the verge of nodding off, so let us make our exit. Chapter 18. Breaking the Clearing Record. In the desolate stone field outside the dungeon, the atmosphere was suffocatingly heavy. Lin Tianhao's eyes were bloodshot, his black coat fluttering violently in the wind. Suan stood by his side, her hands clasped tightly against her chest. This formidable woman was, at this moment, nothing more than a mother praying for her child's safe return. On the other side, Zhao Lei remained far more composed. From time to time, he would raise his wrist to glance at his exorbitantly expensive Patek Philippe. At that very moment, the swirling vortex of the dungeon, which had been spinning frantically, paused for a beat. That was the sign that the dungeon was about to reset. The hearts of Lin Tianhao and Suan immediately leapt into their throats. In this world, when an abyssal-level dungeon in the wilderness resets, there are only two possibilities. Either everyone inside has perished and the dungeon has reset itself, or the challenge has been cleared. Zhao Lei adjusted the gold-rimmed spectacles on his nose. It appears to be over. Prepare to head in. Zhao Yu rotated his wrist slightly. After all, being able to demonstrate one's true strength before so many prominent figures, the mere thought of it was enough to stir a sense of excitement. But at that very moment, Yi Hongyu suddenly cried out, "Look above, quickly." Every gaze instinctively followed the direction of her finger, only to see that the record which had stood for 18 years was rapidly fading away. The highest record to date. 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 22 seconds. A team clearance, and under the name of Xia Qingyu, how could this be? Zhao Lei's expression stiffened, his mouth hanging agape, unable to close for a long time. His son Zhao Yu was faring no better. He stared blankly at the line of records. They had cleared it, and not only that, they had shattered the record while the dungeon was in its abyssal state. Just as the crowd had yet to recover from this massive shock, the dungeon entrance flickered and several figures slowly stepped out of the vortex. The moment Lin Mo stepped out of the dungeon, he was startled by the scene before him. Hundreds of fully armed soldiers, dozens of floodlights, and countless pairs of eyes staring at him without a blink. Is such a grand display truly necessary? Lin Mo's gaze swept across the crowd, eventually resting on the vivid expression of Zhao Yu not far away. He raised an eyebrow, waving his hand with a half-smile. Oh, young Master Zhao is here as well? Out here catching the breeze instead of sleeping soundly at home in the middle of the night. You certainly have refined tastes. Zhao Yu's face flushed red and he stood speechless, unable to utter a single word. Before Lin Mo could offer any further provocation, Suan rushed toward him. More, she had no intention of maintaining her stoic executive image any longer. She pulled Lin Mo into a tight embrace, her grip so fierce it felt as if she might crush his ribs. You scared your mother to death. That was an abyssal-ranked dungeon. Why must your fate be so arduous? If anything were to happen to you, I would not be able to go on living. Suan wept while striking Lin Mo's back firmly. Cough, cough. Lin Mo, being squeezed until his vision clouded and his face turned purple, struggled to pat his mother's back. I didn't die at the hands of the monsters, only to be finished off by my own mother. Hearing her son's plea, Sushuan finally snapped back to reality and hurriedly let go. She frantically wiped the tears from her face, then scanned Lin Mo from head to toe, her expression a mix of deep concern and remorse. Forgive me, forgive me. Mother was too emotional. Let me see, are you injured anywhere? Where does it hurt? I am fine, I haven't even a scratch on me. Lin Mo helplessly spread his arms, taking the opportunity to show that his limbs were all perfectly intact. At this moment, Lin Tuanhao strode forward. This battle-hardened commander did not lose his composure like his wife, yet the large hand resting on Lin Mo's shoulder trembled slightly, betraying the turmoil within his heart. Good lad, as long as you are alive, that is all that matters. Lin Tianhao's gaze drifted past his son, settling on the 4 individuals, including Xia Qingyu, who were walking out behind him. His eyes narrowed and his brows furrowed slightly. Apart from being covered in a bit of dust and appearing exhausted, these 4 did not bear a single mark of serious injury. What happened here? Lin Tianhao asked in a low, stern voice. Even if his son possessed a talent for micromanagement, surviving in such an environment was already an incredible feat. How could he have possibly led an entire team out unscathed? Xia Qingyu took a deep breath, stepped forward, and bowed deeply to Lin Tianhao. Uncle Lin, that we were able to survive and clear the Abyss dungeon is entirely thanks to Lin Mo. If Lin Mo had not shattered the final boss's barrier single-handedly and absorbed over 90% of the incoming damage, we would all have perished inside. Saying this, Xia Qingyu took a bank card from her pocket and offered it to Lin Tianhao with both hands. Uncle Lin, we cannot accept the payment for this mission. Inside the dungeon, not only were we unable to provide any assistance, but we also benefited from Lin Mo's efforts, gaining 2 levels, and we even shared the glory of breaking the dungeon clearance record. It would be shameful to accept this money, so please, you must take it back. Zhang Kai and Wang Meng, standing behind her, nodded frantically in agreement. That's right. Young Master Lin is truly peerless. He carried the entire team. We were essentially just there to watch in awe. I am humbled. How could I possibly accept this reward? Hearing such relentless flattery, Lin Mo scratched his head in embarrassment, his cheeks flushing slightly. To be praised to such a degree in front of so many people, he found it difficult to maintain his composure. You are all being far too courteous, he said, feigning as much modesty as he could muster. I am perhaps not as extraordinary as you claim. It was merely a standard performance, nothing more. Lin Tianhao gazed at his son's nonchalant demeanor, struggling to believe that he had carried the entire battle alone. After all, the dungeon had reached the abyssal grade, and he had shattered a record that had stood for 18 years. Was his son truly that formidable? Lin Tianhao suppressed the manic joy surging within him, laughed heartily, and pushed the card offered by Xia Qingyu back toward her. Keep the money. When Lin Tianhao offers a gift, I do not take it back. Xia Qingyu's hand, holding the bank card, froze in midair, leaving her momentarily at a loss for words. At that precise moment, Su Wan stepped forward and gently took hold of her hand, pressing the card back into her palm. Little Xia, since Uncle Lin has insisted, you should accept it. No matter how much effort Moore contributed this time, without you and your companions holding the front line, and without the trust of such teammates, it would have been difficult for him to achieve this alone. Besides, you have braved the gates of death alongside Moore. Consider this a small token of my gratitude. Take it, buy yourself some supplements, and recover your vitality. Seeing the sincerity in Suwan's eyes, Xia Qingyu finally nodded. She retrieved the bank card and replied, Then, I thank you, Uncle Lin. There is no need for such formalities, child. Enough, enough. Let us not stand here in the biting wind any longer. In an excellent mood, Lin Tianhao gestured to a subordinate nearby. You there, escort the group back safely. Not far away, Zhao Lei stood with a look of utter disbelief. The entire team, not a single injury. Zhao Lei muttered, his voice dropping to a chilling low tone. Not only did they clear the dungeon, but they did so without a single casualty. How could this be possible? Zhao Yu, standing beside Zhao Lei, scoffed coldly, suspecting that the old man, Lin Tianhao, must have paid a heavy price to provide Lin Mo with some kind of trump card. Having said that, Zhao Lei's gaze settled upon Xia Qingyu, who was preparing to depart. Besides, that girl Xia Qingyu does not seem simple either. Do you know her? Zhao Yu followed his father's gaze and nodded. She is the belle of the first high school and possesses an A-grade water affinity. She is quite renowned throughout the school. Before the class advancement, she consistently ranked first in the entire school in both theoretical exams and combat simulations. A water mage of A-grade potential. First in the entire school, you say? Zhao Lei narrowed his eyes. Let us go. There is nothing left for us here. He pulled open the car door. Before seating himself, he turned and instructed the adjutant beside him in a cold tone. Go investigate that girl, Xia Qingyu, thoroughly and find an opportunity for me to speak with her. Tell her that we have claimed the status of top scholar for Zhanghai City this time. If she wants compensation, let her name her price. The vice commander acknowledged the order and departed. The car window slowly rolled up. Zhao Lei looked toward his son sitting beside him, his tone turning serious. Xiao Yu, do not let these trivial matters disturb your focus. The reward for the top scholar of Zhanghai City this time is none other than the heart of the magma behemoth. For your path as a blazing mage, it is of vital importance. Zhao Yu clenched his fist, his eyes burning with a fervent, heated intensity. Rest assured, father, the title of top scholar for Zhanghai City is mine to claim. Seeing his son's demeanor, much of the gloom that had previously clouded Zhao Lei's mood dissipated. Truly as expected of my son, you do not recoil when facing the strong, but rather you ignite an even more intense desire to battle. That is the way it should be. Only with this wolf-like instinct will you be able to stand at the summit of this world and conquer all who oppose you. Chapter 19. The title of top scholar is already mine. Not even the heavens can stop me. The fire control technique faltered, growing significantly weaker. I am starving. It feels as though my entire being has been drained. The fire control technique began to protest. That last explosive blending flame dragon bullet consumed far too much energy. Hurry and find this seat some fire dragon meat to sustain me for now. The little fireball, which had been so arrogant and overbearing just moments ago, now spoke in a noticeably weak tone. Lin Mo rubbed his stomach. It let out a growl as he was truly famished. He felt as though he could devour an entire ox. He turned his head to look at his mother, Su Wan. Mother, let us discuss other matters once we have returned. I am nearly fainting from hunger. Could we find something to eat first? It would be best if it were something rich in energy and fire elements. I wish to nourish myself. Upon hearing this, Su Wan immediately shifted into a spirited and assertive stance. Of course you must eat. I shall summon the culinary team at once. Should I have the 5-star chefs fire up the stoves right here? What would you like to consume? Whether it is fire dragon meat or deep-sea flame marrow soup, as long as you desire it, I will procure it for you. At this moment, Lin Tianhao stood to the side, turning his gaze toward the direction where Zhao Lei's convoy had vanished into the distance. The wind whipped his outer cloak, causing it to billow violently. That Zhao Lei. I am still enraged thinking of his expression from earlier. He arrived with his entire team before there was even any confirmed news regarding Moer. He clearly assumed that our Mora was as good as dead. He never expected Mora to be so formidable, did he? We have been rivals for half our lives. Does he truly believe he can win a round just by using his children? Lin Tianhao let out a cold snort before turning his attention toward Lin Mo. Since you possess such exceptional talent and the drive to improve, we must not let it go to waste. Lin Tianhao waved his hand, declaring with soaring ambition. I have made my decision. Tonight I will mobilize the 3rd Special Operations Brigade of the City Defense Army. This entire rocky wasteland and the nearby training grounds shall be cordoned off. They will lure beasts for you to hunt. They will beat them to their last breath so you can harvest the experience. We are not returning home tonight. We shall cultivate and grind for levels throughout the night. We must trample that Jiao Wu beneath our feet before the grand examination, and give the father-son pair of Jiao Lei a lesson they will never forget. Lin Mo, who had been anticipating a feast of fired dragon meat, froze entirely upon hearing this. Surely not. Grinding levels all night after having just conquered that abyss dungeon? Even a beast of burden would not be worked this relentlessly. Lin Mo was about to open his mouth to refuse, intent on expressing the basic human need for sleep, when he was abruptly cut off. It is not up for discussion. Before Lin Mo could even speak, Su Yuan slapped Lin Tianhao's hand away. She glared at him and shouted, Lin Tianhao, have you lost your mind? Mor has only just returned from the abyss dungeon, narrowly escaping death. His mental energy is severely depleted, yet you still demand he grind levels through the night? Do you intend to work my son until he collapses from exhaustion? Well, is leveling up more important, or is his health? Absolutely not. Mor is returning home to sleep right this instant. Lin Mo nodded frantically in his heart, giving his mother a silent thumbs up. Exactly. Does one not need to sleep? The fireball technique chimed in. Sleep? What do you mean sleep? Only the weak require sleep. The fireball technique continued. Once you have finished consuming the feast, you shall continue. This seat is a fireball destined to become a forbidden spell. Are you truly so weary after merely this much? Get up and keep grinding. Lin Mo stared at the small, frantically pulsing fireball icon on his skill bar, feeling a deep sense of fatigue in his heart. This rebellious skill, who knows, it might actually be able to achieve it. If he truly went home to sleep and happened to have another breakthrough upon waking, how would he explain it? Should he tell them he had been deceiving everyone? Or that he snuck out in the middle of the night to grind levels? It would be a miracle if they didn't think he had lost his sanity. Just as Lin Mo was lost in deep thought, Lin Tianhao suddenly chuckled, turning to Su Yan with a gentle tone. Oh, don't be so hasty. I cherish our son as well. I am aware that Mor is exhausted, so I suggest we move the large bed from home here and set up a temporary base. The Special Forces unit will take charge of luring and weakening the monsters until they have only a sliver of health remaining, then deliver them to Mor. He only needs to lie comfortably on the bed and flick his finger to land the final blow. Su Yuan froze, yet she remained somewhat hesitant. The environment in the wild is abysmal, with winds as cold as bone. How could Mor possibly sleep soundly? At that moment, Lin Mo knew he had to take a stand. If he could not avoid the situation, then he might as well enjoy it. Since there would be a bed to lie on and little fire could fight on its own, his sleeping would not conflict with the process. Lin Mo took a deep. He stepped forward, his gaze becoming incomparably resolute. Father is right. Although I am exhausted and truly yearn to return home to sleep, Lin Mo clenched his fists tightly. I am Lin Mo, and while I may not possess grand ambitions, I absolutely cannot allow my parents to lose face. It is, after all, merely sacrificing a bit of sleep, for the glory of the Lin family. As these words left his lips, accompanied by that unwavering gaze, Suan was struck motionless. She looked at her son, and her eyes instantly reddened. What a sensible child he truly is. Despite being so fatigued, he is still willing to endure special training just to uphold the honor of his parents. You are a good son. Suwan's voice choked with emotion, and she immediately produced a manual that emanated a faint brownish gold light. Since you have reached such a determination, Mother will no longer hold you back. This is something I specifically prepared for you this morning. I had originally intended to give it to you once you returned home this evening. Suan pressed the skill manual into Lin Mo's hand and said in a gentle voice, This is an earth element technique, as I mentioned this morning. It is the earth shield technique. You will likely need it soon, so I am giving it to you in advance. Lin Mo accepted the skill manual. The basic earth shield technique is effective. It summons an elemental earth shield, capable of blocking a certain amount of physical and magical damage. Upon reaching level 10, one can learn a new basic skill. He was currently at level 7 and his experience bar was more than halfway full. If the entire Special Forces regiment came to help him grind levels, he would likely be able to learn it as soon as he woke up from a nap, right? When the time comes to learn this earth shield technique, I hope to manifest a steady foundation, rather than another impulsive younger brother. Thank you, Mother. Lin Mo tucked the skill manual away. Seeing this, Lin Tianhao immediately turned to the adjutant beside him and issued an order. Go and mobilize the entire 3rd Special Forces regiment to this location. Furthermore, go home and dismantle the bed in Mower's room and bring it here. Bring all the silkworms as well and notify the kitchen staff to bring along all the ingredients and cooking utensils. You must depart within 10 minutes. The adjutant standing nearby was stunned into silence. He stood at attention and gave a loud affirmative response. But as soon as he turned away, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Is this what it means to be born into a powerful dynasty? Relocating an entire bedroom into the wilderness, and even deploying an entire Special Forces unit just to bait monsters for the sake of leveling up. Such wealth is truly beyond reason. Once everything was arranged, Lin Tianhao turned to give instructions to Ye Hongyu, entrusting Mo heir to her care. Understood, Commander. Ye Hongyu gave a sharp military salute, her gaze piercing. Lin Tianhao nodded with satisfaction, then looked toward Lin Mo. Your mother and I are heading back now. Remember, if you truly feel exhausted, take a moment to rest. Suan also took hold of Lin Mo's hand, offering lingering words of caution repeatedly before finally boarding the vehicle, casting long, reluctant glances backward. Before entering the vehicle, Lin Tianhao suddenly turned around and called out loudly to his son Lin Mo. Lin Mo tapped his chest lightly, then pointed toward Lin Tianhao, and replied in a booming voice, "Father, this time at the city entrance examination. The top rank is mine, not even the heavens can stop me." You speak with great conviction. Watching their son's radiant confidence and spirited demeanor, Lin Tianhao and his wife exchanged a knowing smile, their faces filled with comfort and pride. It seems that our son's cultivation has not been in vain. Just who is this heavens he speaks of? It is merely another classmate of Moer's. Chapter 20. The young master is truly divine. He can even slay monsters while he sleeps. Upon the rugged, stone-strewn field, a massive, luxurious tent appeared to have been erected out of thin air.